If you are an American citizen, what makes you think the state, county, or city isn't involved in your relationship, regardless of what you call it?
Stuck in the struggle trying to gain, cause I have a greater mission. I hope that you listen.
What's going on, everybody? Deacon here. And by the title of the video, this is a follow-up to a video I made back in April of 2020 during the pandemic. It was where I asked the question, are you still single till you're married? Basically a response to a post that was going around on Facebook at the time. I was going to use it as an avenue to explain why marriage just wasn't a piece of paper in the US. However, with everything going on during that time, I just let it fall to the wayside. Fast forward to March 2023, this video was supposed to be the reply 3 years later, but I let it go into the archives and wasn't going to pull it out until something interesting happened. There was a podcast clip that went viral on Twitter, I'm not calling it X, because a lady made a comment basically about how her husband cheated, but he didn't want her to leave or get a divorce, so she set a whole new set of rules where it's pretty much become an open marriage. But that's not what I want to focus on in this video. I want to focus on another clip in that same podcast they shared that I found interesting. It's when she said this.
The concept of marriage is trash. Marriage on paper is trash. Why does the government need to be involved in who I choose to love and who I choose to be with for the rest of my life? And why is it that I have to prove that I'm married in order for like benefits and all kind of stupid that DMX died and his long-term, what was it, 20 years they've been together? His partner had no access to any of his royalties, to any of his estate, because they weren't on paper married. Marriage is stupid.
I found her comment ironic because in the video I recorded back in March of 23, I said this. If you want to refer to your relationship as just two souls who are intertwined, bonding by meditating with crystals or smoking them, while burning incense to ensure that your chakras are one, do it. Especially if the dynamic of your relationship is built in such a way that you feel it's not necessary for federal or local government's involvement to enjoy one another in this thing we call life. So keep that reference of what you just saw in mind. From that comment, I said to myself, okay, let's run with that. Especially given the fact that even if people are in a committed relationship, a legal marriage is no longer the primary goal. Yes, people who are married still cheat, and things typically get ugly if the marriage ends in divorce. Also throw in the divorce rate. Although I'm confused, why no one ever mentions that people who remarry and got divorced again contribute to the divorce rate? Anyway, the comment was true back in 2020 and even more so now. I get it. But at the end of that clip I said this, no disagreement here. The law, on the other hand, couldn't care less. This is what bothers me about this whole argument. If you are an American citizen, what makes you think the state, county, or city isn't involved in your relationship, regardless of what you call it? Now, the gentleman in the podcast tried to explain about how marriage was a religious thing and so on and so forth. Nah, Slim. I wouldn't have went that route because that's not the route I took in 23 and nor I'm about to take it now. Basically, you have to understand the laws of the land. Now, I found this article that was very interesting from a law firm basically trying to explain why you should get a will and a trust. Had Mr. Simmons, aka DMX, had a will and or a trust, his marital status wouldn't have mattered because he would have had it written down on paper on what to do with his assets. Think about it. When it comes to some of our most important forms of ID, renting a place, owning a home or mortgage, you're filling out your taxes, business ownership, there's always paperwork because you need legal documentation so no one can just say anything and that be the truth. Now in the video, the lady mentioned that DMX was with his partner for 20 years. I could only find articles that reference either 10 years or less, but if I'm being honest, it's irrelevant for what I'm about to share. In the article, it stated his fiance went to the courthouse to try to become the administrator of his estate under common law, but it was thrown out. Why? Because she unfortunately had a popular belief amongst people when it comes to cohabitation and long-term relationships, that if you live with somebody for a period of time or just go around as if you were married, that makes you married under common law. However, that's false as it varies from state to state. Matter of fact, the recording of this video, only 9 of the 50 states, as well as Washington, D.C., observe and acknowledge some form of common law marriage, with 13 of 50 states acknowledging common law marriage from other states, even though those states themselves don't have common law marriage. For example, if you got common law married in Texas and moved to Maryland, Maryland will acknowledge it. But in Maryland, you either have to be married or not. Therefore, the reason why DMX's fiance case got thrown out because common law marriage was abolished in the state of New York back in 1933. Instead, it was his ex-wife and the 3 sons they had together who became the administrators over DMX's estate, which, if I'm not mistaken, grants them the authority to decide who gets what. Here's what else I found interesting. Allegedly, and like I said, this is allegedly, I'm going for what I found on the internet, DMX has over 10 plus children by multiple different women. So if you don't have it on paper, whether it be through a will, a trust, or marriage, any of the women that came prior to his fiance can have a claim to that estate. If we use the reasoning that the lady had in the clip earlier, by the time the assets make their way down, she might receive an Amazon gift card if she was lucky. This exact situation is why these documents are supposed to exist. Now, I know people may still try to contest them, but if you have what's called an irrevocable trust, they're gonna have a very difficult time. You wanna have something as ironclad as possible to say that in the event you're incapacitated or worse, dead, this is what will be fulfilled and carried out with your assets that you left behind. Editor Kevin here. Someone else I wanted to throw in here, Prince. When he passed away, he didn't have a will or a trust either, and his family fought over his estate. So even though I'm focusing mainly on DMX, this is another reason why you need this paperwork. You gotta have some form of paperwork, but let us continue. Another important piece of paperwork is medical power of attorney, because even one thing I didn't know, in this article, if this article is accurate, it basically said that his fiance couldn't even make the decisions for him in the hospital, but instead it was his mom that had to make those decisions. And that's what the whole premise of my video I recorded in March of 23 was gonna be about. I ended by saying, regardless, if you aren't getting a legal or common law marriage, please make sure that you take care of getting all of your legal affairs in order. If not, either your next of kin or the state you thought you were keeping out of your relationship will still end up making decisions for you, dead or alive. And that's all I pretty much wanted to talk about here. When people say that they should be able to have their relationship any kind of way that they want to, I'm not one to argue with that. Just make sure you look at your state laws and how you want to live your life. Because I don't want you to be in a similar situation to where either somebody has to make a life or death decision for you, or you die. And you thought that just because y'all loved each other and were just intertwined adults and souls, that other family members are gonna see it that way. Matter of fact, and I won't say who on camera, but I know a situation close to me where a man passed away and his family told his living girlfriend of 7 years, you got 30 days to move out of this house. Now, they didn't do it immediately after he was buried, but they told her, yeah, you got to get out of this house. Anyway, if you made it this far in this video, I appreciate you. I will end it by saying that I personally don't believe that marriage is just a piece of paper or a business, because I wouldn't have witnessed gays and lesbians fight for the right to legally marry if it was. However, I do understand the hesitation given how devastating it can be physically, emotionally, and financially if it ends in divorce. So I will reiterate this one point. If you're not getting legally married, at least get some paperwork to cover you and your loved one in case it goes the distance. Otherwise, the government you thought you was keeping out will still make a decision for you based on their laws. But that's it. Like I said, if you stayed this long, I appreciate you. Feel free to leave any comments in the comment section below. Just keep them respectful. And as always, be wise. And until I see you all next time, have a great day.